Welcome back to Magnetic Manifesting. Today we're going to be talking about one of my absolute favorite subjects, love and romance in astrology. What are the best aspects for love and romance in your birth chart? So many people have asked me to do a video about this. And also, it's one of the most requested things when I'm looking at people's birth charts, talking one on one of my clients with their astrology. What are the best aspects for love? Will I find love? Where can I see my partner in my birth chart? Will I get married? Do I have good love karma? All this stuff, right? So I was like, this is a great topic to delve deeper on this show. So today we're going to be talking about what are the best aspects for love and romance when you're looking at your own birth charts. So, if you don't already know, I am Jack Scott Lee. If you're new to the channel, hi, welcome. I am your spiritual ambassador, loving to delve deep on all things spiritual, whether that be tarot, astrology, EFT tapping, manifestation work, all of the woo-woo things. I love to collect all these fabulous tools and energy to guide us all into living our absolute goddamn best life because we are so worthy and deserving of that. And so, delving deep today about love and romance, I think this is a great topic to talk about because when we talk about abundance, that also encompasses the abundance of love, whether that be love for yourself, which I think is really key and important above and foremost anything. And that doesn't mean you have to be fully healed to have a relationship. Of course not. You can be doing the work and still doing that with partners, however, whatever floats your boat, right? And so, if you haven't had a reading with me before, I do use a few different house systems. I use whole sign astrology as well as Placidus house system too. Love to use both of these together, and they're fantastic to delve deep on birth charts. If you haven't had a reading with me before, and you'd like to have one, look at the show notes for all the information to do so. There is like a 4 or 5 week waiting list at the moment, so do check that out. And I think it's a great way to start if you want to delve deep into astrology. All right, so get that first. If you don't know your birth chart, then I will leave a link in the show notes for you to go onto like a free birth chart calculator, and then you can literally type in your own details, your birth details onto the free chart calculator. So you'll need to know your time of birth, your date of birth, your time of birth, and your location. Right, the most accurate time you can get because you'll give you the most accurate reading. And so, the time is important because I'll give you your rising sign, and the rising sign changes every 2 hours per day, right? So that, they'll go through the 12 signs in one day, right? So really important to have the time as close as you can get it. Or I do chart rectification as well. If that's something you're interested in. But if you have all those details, pop it in. I'll give you a big three. So I'll give you your sun, your moon, and your rising sign. These are all really important when it comes to delving deep into your birth chart, which is what we're going to be talking about today. When we look at the houses, people, what the hell is house? So the house in astrology, right? So when you have your birth chart in front of you, it's usually a big wheel, and they'll be divided into 12 sections, and each of those sections are called houses, right? So when you hear astrologers talking about the first house, the third house, this is what we're talking about because the houses all mean something significant. We're going to delve deep today into which houses are, great for love and romance, which planets and houses are great for that too, as well as the best aspects, what the planets mean, how they talk to one another, which signs do better than others. And if there's something you want to dive even more deeper into for yourself, I have just launched on its pre-sale the Decode Your Birth Chart astrology course where I have hours of videos all recorded for you at your own leisure to click into and get all the information from for you to be able to read your birth chart and read also the charts of others like a professional. So we're going into the houses, the planets, the signs, how this all fits in the birth chart, which each house mean, what all the aspects are, what all the planets mean, what all the planets in each house mean. This course is so deep. I put so much information and energy into it so you guys can literally go through this. You have it's on pre-sale at the moment, and you have lifetime access to that. And then I'll pop some bonus content on there too, so to show you how you can actually start to read birth charts as well. There's like a Saturn video in there as well. I'm doing a North Node life purpose video as a bonus. There's a downloadable PDF with all the information on there too regarding each sign, planet, house, aspect, each planet in each house. It's got everything on there that you ever need to be able to read your birth chart. So that's something you're interested in. Look on the show notes and get your pre-sale because the pre-sale price at the moment is going to be around for like another week or so, and then I'll go up to full price. All right. So now let's get into what are the best aspects for love and romance. And like these are the best aspects as being an astrologer, looking at people's birth charts. That does not mean if you don't have the placement that you're not going to find love and romance. Of course not, right? Everyone's chart is geared differently, and as we go through the video, we will see how all this plays out. Okay, so firstly, when looking at some of these charts, we'll look at some of the particular planets that are associated with, and some that you may not even think of that are associated with love and romance. So the first one, which I think is the one that most people know. All right, if you don't, it's Venus. Venus is the planet of love, right? She rules the love language. Yeah, love language, aesthetics, your love values, your love language, how you like to be loved, the love that you call in, what you're attracted to, your style as well is Venus. Because Venus rules like your aesthetics, right? It's like the how you choose to do your hair, the clothes that you wear, the makeup that your whole look is renewed, right? And I talk about that because how you look is one of the things that attracts your partners to you, right? Because we do, yes, we go deep, but also the first initial attraction is always usually done by how you present yourself, right? And so Venus plays a big key in that, right? And Venus, because Venus rules Libra, Venus rules Taurus, and these are the signs which are all about love and romance too, right? So we always look at Venus in the birth charts. Yeah. So some Venus placements are different than others. They act differently. And so some of the stronger ones for love, Venus placements for love, I've noticed, right? And just because Venus rules Taurus and Libra. That doesn't mean they're going to have amazing love placements. However, especially a Libra rising, that part of being a Libra rising is that your life purpose does involve partnership, and being in a partnership of some sort. You know, that doesn't always mean that partnerships come easy. I've noticed with my Libra rising clients, and you have to let me know if this affects you too, if you're a Libra rising or you have a lot of seventh house placements, is actually that the one thing that you crave the most is actually where you get the most challenges. As a Libra rising too, I can confirm that. Um, but yeah, Venus for Taurus and Libras is amazing, and so yeah, there's a few different Venuses, right, which I play out differently. So yeah, we have Venus in each sign. So some of the more magnetic, full of romance, right? Of course, the domicile. We always look at the domicile planets will act, stronger because they're in their home country, they're in their homeland. They know the language there. They can be themselves there, right? They feel comfort at home there. And so we have domicile planets, and domicile planets are the planets which are in their home sign. So if I see somebody who has a Venus in Libra, this is fantastic. Great placement for attraction, love, and romance, right? As is Venus in Taurus, because Venus in Taurus loves to be in Taurus. These are the Venus is in Taurus, Venus is in Libra. They attract love and romance more easily, right? And the love and romance can be more harmonious. However, right, just to balance this out. I was doing a client's chart recently, birth chart recently, where they had Venus in Libra. Amazing, right? It was in the ninth house, right? The ninth house rules foreign travel, as well as many of the things. But one of the things the ninth house rules is foreign travel, and so yes, my client, super abundant, the ninth house is one of the lucky houses, is one of the money houses too. And so, yeah, very fortunate in finance, very lucky when it came to work and career and calling the abundance. And however, she could only find lovers who were from far and distant lands where the they were based in the UK, and her partners were either from the Caribbean or from the States, from what I remember. And and there's a huge ocean between the two. So this is how, the great Venus domicile. However, not very practical, and then they started to work with the energy of that and be just, be open to, okay, well, this is how it's going to be for me. You know what I mean? I'm okay with that. Um, and again, similar story with Venus in the 12th house. This is hidden love, right? Venus in Libra, but Venus in the 12th house, and the the person whose child I was reading for, always got themselves involved in entanglements with people who are already in relationships. So this is the 12th of the hidden house. Or it was something where they were always the mistress because it's the 12th house. So, yes, Venus, incredible. Venus in Libra is incredible. It's fabulous for love. Better in the second house, better in the fifth house, amazing in the seventh house because Venus loves to be in the seventh house, right? And so, if you have your Venus in the seventh house, that is also a great indicator of love and romance too, because having the planet of love in the house of relationships is fabulous. Because we have certain houses, which I'll get into in a bit, which are, you know, known for representing relationships. And so the seventh house is one of those. And not only that, the seventh house is also the natural home for Libra and Venus. So if you've got Venus in Libra in the seventh house, incredible means your Aries rising. Venus in the second house, then this is the house ruled by Taurus. Okay. And I've seen actually a client who I was reading for, they had a detrimental Venus. So this is Venus in Aries. However, the Venus was sat in the second house. So even though their Venus was in detriment, when Venus in Aries is classed as being detriment, why? Because Venus in Libra, the sign which is opposite, yeah, is classed as being in domiciles in its home sign. So when a planet's in its home sign, the sign opposite that planet, the sign opposite that sign. So, for example, we're talking about Venus in Libra, right? So, what planet is opposite Libra? What house is opposite Libra? Um, Aries, and so that means the that sign will now be, in detriment to that planet because it's furthest away from its home. Okay, and so the same goes with Venus in Scorpio, right? Venus in Scorpio acts very differently to the other Venus because it's very much about deep desire, passion, infatuation, obsession, deep intimacy, and it's a very sexual Venus, which is again classed as being in detriment, right? Because it can face many challenges there. Okay. But like I said, the client whose chart I was reading, they had a Venus in Aries, and however, it's sat in the second house, and so they're actually very fortunate when it came to finance, and very fortunate. They had remember Venus in Taurus. Taurus likes long term stability. They've been in like a long term relationship for like over 2 decades, and which is what they both the part of the person who I was reading, their partner both wanted. And so if long-term relationship is what you're looking for, then yes, Venus in Taurus, especially in the eighth house, Venus in Libra in the eighth house, second house, sorry, is fantastic for that. Fantastic for that, So I think being, having a great Venus placement certainly helps, and having Venus in the houses of love and romance, which are the fifth house, yeah? And so the fifth house rules casual dating. They call it casual dating, right? Sex, flirtation, And so Venus does great here. Venus is great, especially the fifth house. The fifth house is ruled by Leo. This is about fun, you know? Not only fun, but also like Leo loves to be out. Leo loves to be in restaurants. Leo loves to date. For example, this is the fifth house. Fifth house rules things like bars, restaurants, like places you go on a date, for example. So Venus loves to be here. It's one of the houses of love and romance. So of course Venus is great here. Venus in Leo, great here. It's a very dramatic placement where love brings a lot of drama. You know, I had this is I'm showing you another way to play out. So I had somebody with Venus in Aquarius, right? Venus in Aquarius, but the Venus was in the fifth house. Always dating, always. They don't have a problem attracting lovers. because Venus is in the fifth house. It's like, it loves to be there. Um, which reminds me, it doesn't have to be, in a love and romance house. It can be, somewhere like somewhere very visible too. And so the first and tenth house, I've noticed with the Venus being in the first and tenth house, because these are very much about public persona, how you look, the energy that you emit, right? And how the world sees you, the first and tenth house, right? Again, this can be amazing for attracting love because this just makes you beautiful. However, I've noticed, so I always said however, right? I was saying to someone, I really someone's chart yesterday, I said, like, with every like amazing blessing and aspect you have in your birth chart, I've noticed it always comes with like a little plot twist or caveat or challenge that you need to overcome for it to be fully activated, which I think is what why we're all here incarnated for. And so, the Venus in the first house, I've noticed, I've dated a lot of Venus in the first house people, that they don't actually see their own beauty because the first house is the house that everybody else sees. You don't necessarily see it, you know? And so I found that very interesting. But yeah, Venus in the first and 10th house, and again, the 10th house is what you project out to others. So you may not necessarily see that yourself. But again, I find these a great placement for love and romance because they naturally attract love and love to them. Right. Um, and if you and I've gone through in my course every single aspect of Venus. So, for example, Venus in Aquarius is very eccentric. They go for more quirky lovers. Venus in Capricorn, they tend to go for more older lovers. There's always an age gap difference or something like that. Or they're attracted to classic beauty and they're very more traditional. You know, Venus in Gemini, Venus in Aquarius are very much more about thinking outside of the box and being a bit more creative and more freer, right? Venus in Sagittarius doesn't like to be tied down, but when they are, they're very, very loyal. Venus in Leo, very dramatic lovers. They Venus in Virgo, they love to attract projects in love, right? And these are like the archetypes I'm going through in my birth chart decoded video. Astrology course. So if you want to delve deeper, get that because I go through every single sign. Okay. So another thing that I like to look at, right, is Mars. You may say Mars is a malefic, whatever. Yes, that is true. But Mars also rules things like passion, drive, and sexual expression. Okay, and so with Mars, I like to look at um, what aspect it's making, and where it's sitting. If you have like a really well aspected Mars, um, for example, if you've got Mars in the eighth house, this is great for sexual expression. Mars in the fifth house, this is great for desire. Mars in the seventh house is great for sexual expression, however, and passion, right? However, it can also bring combativeness because the two and two kind of go hand in hand, really, when Mars is involved. Um, Mars, Mars in so Mars in the relationship houses, of course, great for passionate sex, intimacy, right? Especially if it's in the eighth house, right? And if it's in something like, where does Mars like to be? Yeah, Mars likes to be in its home sign, Aries. Mars in Aries is great. Very, these people go after what they want. You know, go after what they want, who they want. This is what I'm trying to say. Mars and Scorpio, again, uh, very. These people are like very sexual magnets almost, and they may even attract unwarranted sexual advances. Because they naturally ooze that. And it might be like, I'm not even doing anything. I'm just how I am. You know what I mean? And again, like I was talking about with Mars and the houses, Mars in the first. Again, this brings love to you. This can bring sex to you, because Mars will sex, right? And so, if Mars is in the eighth house or the first house, these are indicators that sex is brought to you. Whatever is in your first house is brought to you. I've noticed that. I've noticed that. So, but yeah, Mars in the house of sex, of course, great sexual intimacy. Um, and if it's well aspecting your Venus too, if Mars is making good aspects, like sextiles and trines to your Venus, to your Sun, to your Moon, then this is great for relationships as well. This is when they can express themselves in healthy ways, and can be lucky in the bedroom. You know, um, Another thing I like to look at, we're talking about planets, is the moon. So, the moon will show you how you like your emotional security, how you like to be nurtured, right? And so I've noticed that when we do, with the moon, I think it's right to talk about synastry. And if I'm talking about synastry, this is like a synastry chart. I do synastry reports, synastry charts. So when you layer two birth charts together and see how the planets interact, this is great synastry. This is a synastry chart. So when the moons are well aspected, I find this is great for love and romance because those people make you feel like home. Because the moon is your home, and so if you've got challenges to your moon, this can indicate, blockages when it comes to feeling safe and secure. This can be like moon opposing Pluto, for example. This could be trust issues and intimacy issues there. Uh, there can be like blockages when it comes to you and your partner's intimacy. Mars square the moon, for example. This can be bring combativeness in relationships as well. You know, even with the Mars conjunction to the moon, this can be combativeness too. But if you have like Venus or Jupiter making sextiles or a conjunction to your moon, especially if it's in a relationship house, like we talked about, like in the seventh house or the fifth house or the eighth house, then again, fabulous for relationships. This is great for relationships. It means that you're able to have your emotional needs met, which is part of being a healthy relationship, right? Through having your moon nurtured, right? And so Venus is well aspected to the moon, like a sextile. Incredible, incredible. It brings harmony and joy when it comes to how you express what your wants, needs, and desires in relationships. You know, and nurturing, right? It means that you'll be nurtured to how you want to be. The sun. Oh, you always look at the sun because this is gonna be like, well, what's the ego energy of this person, right? Especially when it's combined with like I talking about before, synastry, when you were doing synastry reading. So synastry reading, if you don't know, is when you layer two charts together. So say if you have your birth charts, and then you'll pop your birth chart of your lover on there, your partner, whatever you want to call them, right? And you'll layer them on top, and you can see how the planets are interacting with each other. And so when you have like really great sun and moon energy, like when, for example, if you have sun and moon, the first, I love having sun and moon and in a conjunction. I think that's great. It just means that you get each other. You know what I mean? You allow the one person to shine, the sun will nurture the moon will nurture the sun. It's great. I mean, it's really lovely in this industry. I think it's beautiful to see because the sun and moon will support one another. You know what I'm saying? Also, they'll really support it. And I think you can kind of get the same energy with this with the moon and the sun are sextiling as well. Not so kind of in an opposition to, I think in an opposition, there's work to be had, but if you can meet in the middle, then this can also work too. It doesn't have to everything to be hard shining and harmonious because sometimes actually we can work through our challenges and obstacles together as a unit to actually then have better relationships. It doesn't have to always be, sunshine and lollipops. Sometimes the work is done and the intimacy is created through working together, working through healing together as well. Doing the work on ourselves, but also doing that work within a relationship because you are actually challenged and your squares and oppositions are triggered when you're actually in partnership. So you want to see where your partner's planets are actually triggering yours, causing combativeness, causing issues, causing whatever it is. For example, it could be like a Saturn conjunction with your Mercury, in a birth chart, and that could be issues around, being seen and heard, or your partner is misunderstanding everything you say, or it could be communication issues. That could be something that can be worked on together, if you have this in your chart. You know what I mean? But yeah, people have the sun in the fifth house. Very romantic. Sun in the seventh house, they love to be in love. Seventh in the sun in the eighth house, these people need to have intimacy. They need to be in a partnership. As do, the sun in the seventh, they love to be in a partnership too. So in the fifth, they like to date more and have fun. And there can be a bit more of what's the word I want to use? I don't want to say player, but that sort of vibe, I mean, they have many lovers, right? I have some in the fifth house too, so I'll come back to that. Another one to a really great one to look at in the birth chart is Jupiter. Why? Because Jupiter is marriage potential. And it's one of the things, there's a few that I'm not going to get into, there's asteroids I look into as well, but I'll do that in a separate video. Jupiter, right, is one of the things I want to look at when you, or you can look at, right, if you want to see where you're going to meet your partner or the type of person you're going to meet, you know, one of the things, because Jupiter rules marriage, right? So, Jupiter in the second house, for example. These Jupiterian people crave stability in relationships. You know, and they want someone who's stable, reliable, stacks their cash. The sign that Jupiter is in can indicate the type of lover you'll meet too. You know, so if you have Jupiter in Cancer, it can mean that you'll be attracted to more nurturing lovers. You know, if we're talking about best aspect, then Jupiter in the seventh house. I've seen Jupiter in the seventh house play out where the person get married like either very young, you know? I've said that a few times, so if you'll let me know if you have that. Saturn in seventh house, much later on. Love comes later, you know? But Jupiter in seventh house, great for love and romance. Great for love and romance. Jupiter in Cancer, fabulous for love and romance. And Jupiter in Cancer is exalted, you know? Jupiter in Pisces. Oh, actually, what about Pisces? I remembered. Jupiter in Pisces, right? Why is that? Because Jupiter is domicile in Pisces, right? So planets in domicile are always fantastic. Um, if- I don't know if I said this already, but Venus in Pisces are fantastic for love and romance. Venus is exalted. So when planets are in exaltation, they do incredible for love and romance. So if you have your Venus in Pisces or your Jupiter in Cancer, these are exalted planets. Okay. So these do better too. All right. Um, I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, so while we're on Venus, Venus also loves to be in the 12th house. So I find that because he's the house that rules Pisces, right? And so when Venus is in the 12th house, she does great there too. It's not always about hidden romance and hidden love affairs. They just do great there too because it's like this is the Pisces house, you know? So it does great there. It really does. And Jupiter in the ninth house is fabulous because the ninth house is also the house of Sagittarius. So Jupiter and Sagittarius, domicile, you have that fabulous for love and romance too. Really great for that. So you have to let me know in the comments if you have any of these, because if you do, I need to know and how the love and romance in your life plays out too, because these are fabulous aspects to have. They really are. You know, so Jupiter's a great one to look at. And it can tell you where you're going to meet your lover too. Like Venus and Jupiter can tell you where you'll meet your lovers, for example. So if you have Venus in the third house, this rules your local surroundings. It can be like, you know, the area that you live. It also rules short distance travel. So short distance for me is like, you know, a couple of hours, you know. So it could be like a short flight. So this is where your lover will be. Okay. Venus in the fourth house, you can meet your long-term relationship through family. So like a family friend, or they could be introduced to you through a family friend or through arranged marriage or through a family. You know, you could be at a family event, you know. So they could literally come to your house. There could be, for example, I've seen it play out where, for example, a client of mine had their Jupiter in the fourth house, right, in Cancer, and they had a plumber come to the house, and they were together for a long time. You know, it's literally someone coming to your house. What the hell, you know? So this is how it can play out. um, Jupiter in the sixth house or the 10th house, you can meet them at work. Yeah. Um, Jupiter in the ninth house, you can meet them in foreign lands on holiday vacation, for example. You know, Jupiter or Venus in the 11th house, you can meet your lovers through friendship groups or through the clubs and groups that you're part of. So it could be you join I don't know, like archery class or a flower array. I don't know, like some sort of group of whatever you're part of, and you can meet them through that, you know. Yeah, and so the houses, I think, did we mention the houses? So the houses of love and romance are the fifth, the seventh, and the eighth. All right. And not only that, the fifth house, like I mentioned, is romance and fun, right? Casual dating. Seventh house is supposed to be marriage, but I like to view seventh house. Yes, it can be marriage as well. But it can be something you like, especially in this day and age. You may live together but not actually be married. That would be seven. That would be a seventh house relationship. You know what I mean? I do like to look at the eighth houses for me as marriage more than the seventh. For me, I think that always works more so than the seventh house, personally. Okay, because the seventh house is partnerships of all kinds of marriage. Yes, traditionally, some people say that, which I don't really agree with, that the seventh house can be open enemies, right? I like to see open enemies at sixth house and 12th house, or enemies in general, sixth house, because sixth house and 12th house are your undoing. The 12th house, because you can't see, it's your hidden house, you know? And so to go a bit deeper into that, right? To see if you've got, a more positive love energy. You know, okay, well, what is my fifth house? Who rules my fifth house? What plan? So, what you really look at your birth chart, have a look at your fifth house, and have a look at what sign is in your fifth house. So, for example, if you have Aquarius here, like I do, right? If you have Aquarius in the fifth house, your rule is going to be Saturn. Saturn is not known for love and romance, but it is known for longevity and stability. Okay. So you want to say, well, where is Saturn? Where is your Saturn? Right. For me, I have Saturn in the first house. Right. So remember what I said that, people with Saturn, with planets in the first house, whatever the energy of the house is, it'll bring it to you. And so my Saturn is exalted in Libra, right? So it works a bit differently, especially for Libra rising. Saturn will be kind of act as a benefic. And so what do I have? My ruler of love and romance in the house of me, right in me, right in my, in my ascendant, conjunct my ascendant, okay? And so, this is a really great aspect for long-term, lovers. And I've had many, many lovers, and I've had many, many long-term relationships too. Yeah. So that's how that can play out. So what I'm saying is, when you look at your house, your fifth house, what signs in there, and what is the ruler of that house? So do you have Sagittarius there? Well, where is Jupiter? Because Jupiter was Sagittarius. Jupiter is in Pisces. Oh, okay. It's in its home sign. That's fantastic. You know, that's brilliant. That means that's another great aspect to have. All right. Or, my fifth house is ruled by Leo. Leo is ruled by the sun. Where is my sun? My sun is in the 10th house. This is telling me that I may meet someone at work, someone who's a boss, or, uh, because this rules my love and relationships. It means that I'm going to attract that energy more easily because it's very visible to me, and I'm going to attract to it because it's very visible. It's right, the 10th house is the highest part of the chart, right? And so I want you to start looking at your house rulers. And so the second thing I want you to look at is your seventh house, because the seventh house, as mentioned, rules partnerships and marriage, right? That doesn't have to mean, but for me, like I said, you can also mean that, your long-term relationship. So you may just live with that person, right? This is like a commitment. And so let's keep it simple. If you have a Libra in seventh house, first that's incredible. Where's your Venus? Oh no, I have Venus in Scorpio. In the eighth house. That's okay. Venus likes to be in the eighth house, right? The eighth house is one of the love and romance houses. Yes, it's in Scorpio. That means I crave deep intimacy. I may meet my lover in the bank because the eighth house rules banks. So remember that. Okay. Um, so my Venus is slightly challenged, because the rule of my seventh is in the eighth. It can mean that I'll have very transformative relationships, you know. Okay, I have Libra in the seventh house still. Um, where's my Venus at? My Venus is in the second house. Fabulous, great. That means I have, the one of my um the ruler of my seventh house in the house of money. So it could mean that I will attract a partner who is really financially stable, for example, or might mean that work, or my partner might take care of me, what I mean, through stability. So where is my seventh house ruler? My seventh house ruler is in the 11th house. So I might meet my partner through social activities, you know. And it's also the kind of style that you like to be loved in too, right? So Venus in the 11th house, so they crave friendship in their lovers, you know, whereas Venus in the fourth house, so they want someone who makes them feel like more at home. They want family and stability, you know. And Venus in the ninth house, they want someone they can learn and grow spiritually with and travel the world with, for example. And so they can act differently. And this starts to build a story of my seventh house. Because people say to me, "Oh, my seventh house is empty. That means I'm not going to find anybody." Well, actually, no, because okay, my seventh house is empty too, but the ruler of my seventh house is Aries, and where is Aries for me in the first house? Where is Mars? Sorry, Mars in the first house for me. So the ruler of my seventh house, love and relationships, is literally my ascendant. It's conjunct my ascendant actually, and that all. So I'm constantly inundated with lovers, right? This is how it can play out. Not for everybody, but it can play out like that, right? Um, I've noticed. I'm just going to say it. I have Mars in Libra, and I've noticed. Right, but a lot of my lovers have had Mars in Libra too, and a lot of my clients who are LGBTQ also have Mars in Libra as well. Like I am LGBTQ as well, as are a lot of my clients, and they have Mars in Libra as well. So maybe that's the thing. You know, Mars in Libra is like, you know, it's more of a softer Mars energy, right? So maybe that's the thing. Just let me know. Just let me know how it plays out for you. So while we're talking about house rulerships, have a look at your eighth house. This is your intimacy. For me, this is the house of marriage. Okay. And actually, when we talk about marriage in traditional astrology, the seventh house rules your first marriage. Okay. The second house rules your second marriage. And then the ninth house will rule your third marriage because this is derivative houses. And what you'll do, you'll count eight signs. We've got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, second house. Yeah. And then from there, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth house, fourth marriage, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, that'll be the fourth house, for example. And so you'll keep going around every eight houses to see, you know, and actually I have Jupiter in the second house. So maybe I'll get married again because I've already been married once. So maybe I'll get married again, you know, and that'll be my, you know, comic lover, right? And so have a look at your second house ruler. Where is your second house ruler? Mine is Taurus. I have Taurus. Where is the ruler of Taurus? What first of all, who rules Taurus? Venus. Where's Venus? My Venus in the fifth house, the house of love and dating. So this is a great aspect to have. It's great for love, but it's great for like, you know, surface level of love and romance, you know? And if you have your eighth house ruler in the seventh, this is great for marriage too, you know, great for marriage. Eighth house ruler in the 10th house, right? Someone you can share and stack with, you know. Um, what else do you want to cover? So yeah, start to look at your house rules and how those play out for you. Because the eighth house rules intimacy and shared resources. And when you're in a marriage, you share resources, don't you? And you are deeply intimate. This is the house of Scorpio originally. And so, you know, Scorpio is about intimacy, bonds, the sharing and merging of, you know. So this is a really important house to look at when it comes to love. And this has a sex too, you know. So, you know, Venus here, Mars here, Jupiter here can bring, you know, great sex life as well, right? Um, did we go through the aspects? Yeah. And planets that are in if you have mutual reception and dignity, these are really great too. So mutual reception is when, you know, planets are interchanging with one another, you know. So for example, if you have Venus in Pisces, which rules, you know, and then Jupiter in Taurus is like a mutual reception, you know. And this is a great love indicator too, because the planets are like uh exchanging rulerships. This strengthens the potential for love and romance. You know, um, there's some of the really great aspects to have as well. Like I mentioned it, I touched on it briefly, and I think people don't really realize about it. But Saturn is great as well. especially when it's because Saturn and Venus actually are in mutual reception to one another. They actually support one another, you know. And Saturn, if you speak in mythology, Saturn was in love with Venus, right? And so whenever Venus and Saturn aspect one another, well, Saturn loves Venus and do anything for Venus, you know. So this can provide stability and commitment and long-term loyalty. So if you have like a really great aspect to Saturn and Venus, then this can bring long-term longevity, right? And the thing I was saying about your ascendant, so the ascendant and like aspects to your ascendant, so like, you know, if you have like Mars, Venus, Jupiter aspect to your ascendant, this can make you attractive as well. That's how you look. So, like I said to you, people with Venus in the first house, I've dated a lot of these people, they're really attractive because Venus is like blessing their look. Mars in the first house can make you, really sexually attractive as well. People can like, really be like magnetized by you. Pluto there as well. Pluto can make you very magnetic. I have Pluto in the first house too, and I can sometimes get like people who get obsessed with you. So there's that. Okay. But Venus and Pluto in the first house make you very magnetic. Okay. Jupiter aspecting your mood. This is great for domestic bliss. It really is. It can make you really emotionally generous and your partners as well. It can make and also it just bring fun into your relationships too. I think it's a really fun placement to have, you know. I love Venus aspecting the moon. I think Venus aspecting the moon is so beautiful. It brings so much more harmony into relationships. So if you have those as well, they're great. You need to let me know in the comments if you have any of those, right? And golden yards and yards of fate. When you have the yards of fate pointing in the birth chart too, this can draw in like really intense relationships. And speaking of intense relationships, something that I want to touch on is the nodes. So having the nodes aspecting, so let's say aspecting, nodes aspecting, especially the conjunctions, right, to your natal Venus, natal Mars, Jupiter, what have you. These can bring in like really karmic love affairs. I have Venus conjunct my South Node, and I've had all my relationships have had like a past life connection with them. You know, this is Venus. Venus, and in love and romance, the South Node is your past life, right? And so if Venus is conjunct the South Node, then this is going to be like, bringing in fated love affairs. You can't help but be attracted to and help being drawn to those people. For and it'll play out like you'll see that person, and it's like you've known them all your life. And there's this deep sense of connection. You can't think why. This is Venus conjunct the South Node. Venus conjunct, I feel like Venus conjunct the North Node is slightly better because Venus conjunct the South, because then the South Node is to dissolve. And so I've had my marriage partner, we had both, his Venus, our Venus were conjunct, but and as were our South nodes, and our Venus and our South nodes were, of course, then conjunct too. And so having Venus conjunct your South nodes, this is karmic. And so playing out that karmic story to release that, which I think we definitely did in this lifetime, and letting that go. So I feel like Venus conjunct the North node is so much better when it comes to longevity and attracting love and romance. Both will bring in, I mean, the North Node will bring in more and more and more of, because wherever the North Node likes to devour. So if the North Node is in the fifth, seventh, and eighth, then you can have a lot of lovers, or you can marry young. You know what I mean? Because the North Node will bring something really quickly. Speaking of marriage, Saturn in the seventh house can either bring delays, setbacks in relationships. You can mean you'll fall in love later on. If you have Saturn in the relationship houses, I've seen it where you can meet your partner later on in life after 30, your soul mate, or whatever you want to call them, later on in life. Because Saturn brings lessons and delays, and this can be oppositions too. Because I didn't get married till I was in my 40s. So I have a Saturn opposition. So an opposition can play out the same way too. Okay. All right. So I think that is pretty much everything I wanted to cover in this cute little video. I wanted to delve deep on love and romance in the birth chart, how that can play out, right? I would love to know your Venus placements, how these all play, your Jupiter, all the things, your rising sign, how all these things play out for you in the realms of love and romance. And let's learn and talk about astrology together. If you want to go delving deeper with me, check out the show notes and sign up for the Decode Your Birth Charts astrology course, and you can learn all the things about how you can read your own birth chart. Or if you want a one-on-one reading with me, again, hit me up and let's get into it.